Welcome back to our channel, General Hospital fans. It is a spectacular day to dive deep into the mysteries, the legacies, and the absolute chaos currently brewing in Port Charles. We have a massive development unfolding right before our eyes, something that could fundamentally shift the power dynamics of this town forever. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let us unpack the incredible secrets hiding in plain sight. For weeks, the whispers in the passionate General Hospital fan community have been growing louder, and looking at the latest jaw-dropping developments, we have to ask the massive question: are Danny Morgan and Charlotte Cassadine rapidly becoming the next generation's Jason and Carly? We are not just talking about a fleeting dramatic teen friendship here. We are looking at the foundational building blocks of a profound ride-or-die loyalty that perfectly mirrors the most iconic, platonic relationship in soap opera history. When you look at the sheer recklessness and the absolute unwavering devotion these two teenagers are displaying right now, it is impossible not to feel the heavy echoes of the past ringing through the dark corridors of Port Charles. But what does this mean for their future? And more importantly, what dark, dangerous paths will this intense loyalty drag them down as they step out of their parents' shadows? To truly understand the magnitude of what is happening with Danny and Charlotte, we have to rewind and carefully examine the legendary blueprint left by Jason Morgan and Carly Spencer. Think about the incredible history there. Carly and Jason spent decades dancing on the dangerous edge of romance, nearly crossing that line multiple times, but ultimately forging something far more resilient and enduring than a traditional marriage. They were the ultimate safety net for one another in a world filled with betrayal. Do you remember the sheer emotional weight of their 2021 wedding? They actually made it to the altar, ready to solidify their profound bond in the eyes of the law, only for a presumed dead Sonny Corinthos to miraculously walk through the door. Carly fainted, Jason silently stepped back into the shadows, and their romantic trajectory was instantly, permanently shattered. Yet, their bond remained entirely unbroken. Is the show brilliantly setting up Danny and Charlotte to carry this exact same torch, completely bypassing a messy romance for an unbreakable, lifelong tactical alliance? Initially, the writers seemed to be toying with a very different direction for Danny and Charlotte. There was a brief period where the tension felt almost romantic, a classic angsty teen storyline filled with stolen glances and awkward moments. But then, the narrative shifted drastically and brilliantly. The realization that forcing them into a romantic or overly complicated family dynamic just was not clicking seems to have pivoted the writers towards something much more profound and long-lasting. They have moved from almost lovers to an absolute forever friendship. This is a masterstroke of storytelling. By removing the messy complications of teenage romance, the writers have given Danny and Charlotte the absolute freedom to become fiercely protective allies. But this raises a terrifying, thrilling prospect. If they are truly the new Jason and Carly, who will eventually become their Sonny? And what kind of terrifying underworld danger are they about to attract with their newfound bravery? Let us talk specifically about Danny Morgan's recent, shocking actions, because the apple has clearly not fallen far from the legendary tree. When Danny took down Ross Cullum's ruthless henchman Mark McKay to rescue Charlotte, it was a moment that sent absolute chills down the spine of every longtime viewer watching at home. That was not just a lucky panicked shot from a frightened teenager in over his head. That was a calculated, cold, and incredibly effective tactical strike. It was pure, unadulterated Jason Morgan energy. Danny is beginning to exhibit that same quiet intensity, that same terrifying willingness to use physical force to protect the people he considers his inner circle. But we have to wonder, is Danny fully prepared for the devastating psychological consequences of embracing this dark, violent side of his DNA? Every time he steps up to play the hero, is he taking one irreversible step closer to the dangerous, blood-soaked life his mother, Sam McCall, fought so desperately hard to keep him away from? On the flip side of this fascinating dynamic, we have Charlotte Cassadine, who is proving to be every bit as formidable, stubborn, and fiercely loyal as Carly Spencer ever was in her prime. Charlotte has already stepped up to rescue Danny on multiple occasions, displaying a fierce, unapologetic loyalty that completely ignores the rules, the law, and her own personal safety. She has that brilliant Cassadine cunning mixed perfectly with a fiery determination that demands she take immediate action, regardless of the personal risk involved. Just like Carly, Charlotte absolutely refuses to sit quietly on the sidelines when someone she cares about is in jeopardy. But this combination of dark Cassadine heritage and Carly-esque recklessness is a highly combustible, dangerous mix. Is Charlotte destined to be the brilliant mastermind who constantly, perhaps unintentionally, pulls Danny into high-stakes, life-threatening situations, just as Carly so often did with Jason? And how will her father, Valentine Cassadine, react when he finally realizes his precious daughter is operating as a rogue, fearless operative on the dangerous streets of Port Charles? Now, we absolutely cannot discuss this emerging powerful dynamic without addressing the massive looming elephant in the room, Jake Weber. Jake, Danny's half-brother, previously harbored a significant, undeniable teenage crush on Charlotte. Since Jake and Charlotte share absolutely no blood relation, the door is kicked wide open for a massive, dramatic future storyline that could dominate the show for years. If Jake returns from college and attempts to reignite his past connection with Charlotte, we could be looking at the ultimate devastating triad. Could Jake, Charlotte, and Danny eventually become the new Sunny, Carly, and Jason? Imagine the incredible psychological complexity of that specific triangle. Jake, perhaps taking on a more dominant, emotionally complex leadership role, with Charlotte as the fierce, protective, matriarchal figure, and Danny serving as the silent, lethal, unwavering enforcer. Are the brilliant writers actively, meticulously planting the seeds for the next 20 years of Port Charles' power struggles, completely free from the traditional mob ties, but equally, if not more, dangerous? While the future implications are absolutely staggering to think about, we have a massive, terrifying, immediate crisis unfolding right now on our screens. The desperate situation surrounding the missing Jocelyn Jacks has reached an absolute boiling point, and Carly is, predictably and dangerously, going completely rogue. Carly has explicitly, forcefully warned Danny and Charlotte to stay home, to keep their heads down, and to let her handle the terrifying search for Jocelyn alone. But when has a stern warning ever stopped a determined teenager in Port Charles, especially two teenagers who are rapidly evolving into the town's newest, most fearless vigilante duo? Carly's desperate warning was essentially a glowing green light for Danny and Charlotte. They know the incredible stakes, they know the dangerous players involved, and they absolutely refuse to be left out of the life or death equation. But are they blindly walking into a lethal trap that even the seasoned Carly cannot see coming? What is truly fascinating and deeply unsettling is the specific logic Danny and Charlotte are using to justify their blatant disobedience. During the incredibly intense episode on Monday, June 30th, we saw them breaking down the terrifying situation with a maturity and a cold calculation that is both impressive and terrifying for their age. Their core reasoning? Neither Jason Morgan nor Valentine Cassadine would ever, under any circumstances, want Carly walking into a hostile, unknown situation without reliable backup. They are not just acting out of typical teenage rebellion or a desire for thrills, they are acting out of a deeply ingrained, almost genetic sense of duty. They are consciously stepping into the massive shoes of their legendary fathers, assuming the heavy roles of protectors, because they believe the adults are compromised, or acting irrationally. But is this overwhelming sense of legacy and duty going to get them brutally killed? They are operating purely on instinct and inherited bravery, but they completely lack the decades of harsh tactical experience their fathers possess. The setting for this impending, highly anticipated showdown could not possibly be more ominous or steeped in dark history. Windermere, the legendary, terrifying Cassadine stronghold isolated on Spoon Island. This massive Gothic castle has been the site of countless horrific tragedies, brutal kidnappings, and lethal confrontations over the decades. It is a place where dark secrets are literally buried in the stone walls and deadly danger lurks in every single shadow. By actively heading to Windermere to help Carly find the missing Jocelyn, Danny and Charlotte are not just walking into a random fight, they are walking directly into a fortress of nightmares. Ross Cullum and his heavily armed, ruthless henchmen are already positioned inside the sprawling castle. The tactical advantage is entirely, overwhelmingly, with the villains. How can two teenagers, no matter how incredibly brave or legacy-driven they might be, possibly hope to navigate the treacherous, winding corridors of Windermere without being instantly detected and eliminated by professional criminals? So, here is our massive, ultimate prediction for what is terrifyingly waiting in the cold shadows of Windermere. Danny and Charlotte will not just barely survive this deadly encounter, they will shockingly be the ones to deliver the final, decisive blow against the ruthless Ross Cullum, officially, undeniably cementing their status as the new, unstoppable, legendary force in Port Charles. But I want to know exactly what you think about this explosive situation. Will Danny's awakening inner Jason Morgan be enough to save them all from Cullum's wrath, or are these incredibly reckless teenagers about to trigger a massive, heartbreaking tragedy that will shatter the lives of everyone in Port Charles forever? Drop your wildest, most detailed theories in the comments below, hit that subscribe button to join our community, and stay tuned, because this incredible story is just getting started.